Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
Josh, my friend, more GTA 6 things are leaking. It's another day, which means it's more information. Now, this one comes from a verified source, lovable man Jason Schreier over on Kotaku. Now, this initially was a big old report on the working conditions at Rockstar and how they've changed since Red Dead Redemption 2. There was that whole thing back when that game was releasing about 100-hour work weeks, and oh my god, everyone's getting dragged through the mud and whatever. So he went back and talked to some employees and talked about the reality of working at Rockstar and what the team and the developers are doing going forward to change that sort of those working conditions. The part of that was some conversation around GTA 6. Now, there's one particular passage from this that is setting the fandom ablaze because it seems we'll dive into it.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, so just to read this thing out, apparently they have a whole new management plan in regards to trying to mitigate the amount of crunch, the amount of time that someone's going to be spending, dusk till dawn working on a game. And so going forward, this is the quote. One plan that management has laid out for the next game, a new entry in the Grand Theft Auto series, is to start out with a moderately sized release, which by Rockstar standards would still be a large game, that is then expanded with regular updates over time, which may help mitigate stress and crunch. And also, Schreier says, but there's a catch, Rockstar's next big project is still early in development. There's two parts to this. We can break it down. So we can get to let's go with the early in development thing for now, because that's the thing that most people are freaking out on, because it implies that even though it's been 7 years, GTA 6 is just getting off the ground.
Which, kind of makes sense, even though we've been reporting on a lot of rumours about the production and the pre-production and, characters finally getting revealed and the game showing up on people's resumes. We have to remember that Red Dead Redemption 2 was a cross Rockstar, production. Every single studio Rockstar had was working on Red Dead Redemption 2 to get that game finished for a long, long time. So there was literally no real resources to begin proper production on GTA 6. I'm sure that somewhere, there was a team tinkering on it, but it wouldn't have got past the pre-production stage. So it does make sense, even though it is incredibly disappointing that they're just getting around to properly kicking it into gear. Because we have to take into account, like I said, Red Dead Redemption 2 and of course GTA Online, that still had a team working on it for going on 7 years now, constantly providing that thing with updates. And even the honchos at Take-Two have said that GTA Online was the thing they were focusing on. They didn't need another Grand Theft Auto game because that was doing so well, and why would they want to cut that lifespan short? So it's not a surprise, but it's still disappointing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, even something like God of War took 5 years to bring together. It's just there's that assumption that 5 years is kind of the maximum, and this long on. I mean, some people who have grown up with, if GTA 5 was your first game and you were like a teenager, you will have been through what feels like your entire life before the follow-up.
That's
mad. Whereas for us, it was GTA 3, it was Vice City, it was San Andreas, and they were a year or 2 years apart at the most. And even GTA 4 was only a few years after that. So it's a stark contrast to how they were handling things in the 2000s. But I also think it kind of reflects, like you were saying, the general sort of work culture over at Rockstar, and the fact that with Red Dead 2, they had to pool all of their resources to get that game out. And I always thought you could tell. I mean, that game was dripping in detail and opulence and over the top, a general attention to detail. The general mentality to that just seemed to be the most over the top thing ever. And I wonder if there's clashing mentalities in-house as to whether that's even a worthwhile way to go forward.
I'm almost certain there is, and I wonder whether this has anything to do with Dan Houser leaving. He kind of left unceremoniously a few months ago, and I wonder whether there's a change in, mentality, a change in approach happening to the games, because for as much as I love Red Dead Redemption 2, it is literally one of my favourite games of all time, and I love the level of detail on that game. It does seem like it was almost the breaking point for a lot of different issues within Rockstar. We've seen, like I said, parent company Take-Two not complain, but say that they want more frequent games from Rockstar and all of their studios, because it's just not viable. And it's not viable to pool all of your different talented teams onto one game when they could be making lots of different games, that are slightly smaller. And also there's the crunch as well that this piece is about. At the time, like you said, there were people talking about 100-hour work weeks, and that was higher up the chain, but it was very apparent that the mentality at Rockstar was kind of toxic in its approach to not outright saying people need to stay, but manipulating the atmosphere in a way where, people were encouraged to work these ridiculous hours to get the game done, because there's a certain level of quality associated with Rockstar. So I do think, for as much as I love Red Dead, I think it's going to be this kind of point in Rockstar's history that almost changes everything, you know what I mean? Maybe for the best, maybe for the worst. It sounds like it is, you know, for the best in terms of the employees' health and the employees' you know, work atmosphere and the employees', you know, security and stuff like that, which fundamentally I think has to come first and foremost.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like both Rockstar and Naughty Dog, for me, have felt like they're on the same level this generation in terms of we're going to push graphical fidelity and general rendering tech so much. You know, you look at Uncharted 4 or Lost Legacy or what looks like The Last of Us 2, and there's just a level of just sheer detail, a painful amount of detail in those games that I think Rockstar have matched as well, and they're just the two front runners. But then obviously on Kotaku's side, they've been able to do these big deep dives for both of those companies that kind of revealed the same problem, that people are, use the phrase, slaving away, trying to make this incredibly detailed game on both sides, and how that's a massive issue. You know, that level of sheer, you know, throwing bodies at this until it looks incredible is a bit of a problem. So the other thing, which we sort of like touched on as part of the first part of this quote, is that GTA 6, or a new entry in the Grand Theft Auto series, is going to be starting out with a moderately sized release and then expanded on with regular updates. Now, that is obviously what GTA Online is, but where do you think they're going to go going forward? Does this mean that, you know, they lead with GTA Online? I mean, Strauss Zelnick from Take-Two did say that they didn't expect GTA Online to be as popular as it is, or is this a single-player space that then gets stuff plugged into it?
I think it has to be single. I think it has to be both, to be fair. I don't think they could lead with online. If they led with online, I think a lot of people would be disappointed, because for as big as that, you know, it is, obviously it makes ridiculous amounts of money every single day. The core GTA fan base, I think, is practically like, you know, they're hungry for a proper single player experience, because although people have been playing GTA 5 for 7 years, they probably haven't been playing the story mode for 7 years. That game didn't get any, you know, single player DLCs, didn't get any expansions like that. So I think there is a real hunger for a big story-driven GTA, especially after Red Dead 2, because, you know, like, that introduced a lot of interesting storytelling devices and showed that Rockstar can tell these great stories and have these great characters when they're firing on all cylinders, and you want to see that transferred away to GTA. At least I do. And you want to see these new maps and stuff. That said, I don't think it's too much of a problem for them to release a moderately sized GTA game, which Jason Schreier even says, by anyone else's standards, that's still going to be a massive, massive release, and then kind of plug things in afterwards, because from the rumors that we've had so far, which, you know, they might not be true, the idea that keeps cropping up is that Rockstar wants to create this, not just one city. They want to add in, you know, Vice City, Liberty City, parts of San Andreas, stuff like that. They want to make this sprawling map. So maybe it would make sense to add those elements on top later on down the line, and then people will constantly be engaged. And it sounds horrible to say it out loud, but like, this is the era of live service and games of service. And although those terms have a lot of, you know, bad connotations, rightly so, because they've been kind of abused by publishers, they can be done right if they're done well. If they're not manipulative or money grubbing or anything like that, they can provide a platform that grows and gets better as time goes on. And if that is treated with respect, and it treats the players with respect, and it treats the employees working on the game better and with more respect, I think that would be good. That'll be fine. It seems like a natural extension.
Yeah, it's looking at Modern Warfare, last year's Modern Warfare, that's now been supplanted with the, I mean, you know, you can argue, the thing that I all the monetization practices, all that, you know, era of platforms for content and plugging stuff in, I think they've had a lot of growing pains, obviously. A lot of games have been sacrificed at the altar of trying to make as much money as possible with as little amount of content as possible. But looking at Modern Warfare, that game is stellar. The package that you bought at launch was stellar, but Activision have then since plugged in, it literally is plugged in options from the main menu, Battle Royale, the Warzone, and I think the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 remaster is actually a separate thing, but they kind of handled that as this standalone plug-in idea, and it tends to go with the philosophy of, look, Modern Warfare is now this platform that we plug stuff into, and to relate that back to GTA, like, yeah, you mentioned the different cities. One of the biggest leaks from the last couple of years was this Project Americas thing, where you would start with one city, do a whole story there, and then you would have you would be slowly building your drug empire, and you would go from city to city, and I think if they did something like that, because it's weird with with GTA's history, Rockstar have always just done the same amount of cities over and over again. They haven't revisited London, but we've got two versions of Liberty City, we've got two versions of San Andreas, Vice City assumedly is the one we're about to go to, but those original cities were always in the very first game, and they just tend to reiterate on them generation after generation. So I wonder if they do one big final thing that rolls everything together over the course of a few years, where they're plugging different cities into this one massive play space, and then they're done, they can finally do something brand new with what GTA even is. And plus, that relaxes on the dev side, because then they get to work on, I guess, one city at a time rather than worrying about the entire thing. So it kind of, quote unquote, solves that problem as well. But obviously, like Schreier says, it's still going to be a sizable game by, a moderately sized release in Rockstar standards is still going to be a huge open world game. But I guess it also solves the problem on the fan side of whatever the hell happened with GTA 5's single player DLC, because that just never came true. But they've approached that idea of segmenting single player since GTA 4. Like, that game had really good DLC it tends to get overshadowed by the main campaign. But if they led with that and said, look, we're plugging in different characters, that would be a great way to go.
Honestly, Ballad of Gay Tony is my favourite part of GTA 4. Like, that little expansion, I adored that even more than the main game. Rockstar in general are so good at, well, maybe up until Red Dead Redemption, which hasn't had a great rollout of online. They've been so good at supporting their games with additional content, I feel. Like you said, the expansions for GTA 4 and now the expansions for GTA Online. I know we didn't get any single player, but there's a lot of content there and a lot of it was free. And I think it makes sense to kind of transfer that over to a full game and make that the philosophy if it helps employees. I mean, we all went mad. I remember in the early days of GTA Online, we thought they were going to add in Vice City and, Liberty City and other areas from other games, because there was so much fan interest in that and so much money to be made that it kind of seems mad that they'd leave it off the table. But if they can do that with GTA 6, both in the story mode and the online mode, maybe have them both coming out together, to maximize, interest, get people back in the story who will then go on to online. I think not only does it make sense from a business perspective and it'll ease the development for the employees, but there's lots of money to be made in that as well.
Oh yeah, man. It makes me think as well that this quote kind of has to be relating to GTA 6, the main body, the single player, because they're not going to abandon the GTA Online IP. No. They're not going to call it GTA Online 2 or something like that. GTA Online will be their online platform, and then they can actually afford the time to flesh out the single player, maybe over time as well. Kind of like GTA Online has had so many free expansions. It's such a great case for, like I said, you can dive into the weeds on how much they're charging for stuff, but the idea of free content on the developer side, but it's supplanted by, fan love and microtransactions and things like that. There is a way for that to be symbiotic and for it to work. It's just that they need to get the balance right in terms of, in GTA's case, things like shark cards and how much do they tweak the economy so you're encouraged to invest in microtransactions. But there's a way to do it where you're constantly supplanting a fan base with hashtag content and charging them a reasonable amount over time to engender a community. All that stuff is great, but applied to a single player thing, like expand GTA's story bit by bit, year by year. There's a way for this to be brilliant. We're reading a lot into a couple of paragraphs, but at this stage where people are, after 7 years, hankering for anything related to GTA 6, it is worth picking apart. Let us know what you think down in the comments below of the idea of GTA 6 releasing in multiple installments over time, and just how angry you are that there's not a full game in your lap right now. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I will catch you next time. Bye.
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 Bye.